I'm Mike.
I'm Jason.
Welcome to Snake Envy. We're going to do another question of the day. Should you feed or handle your snakes during shed? When they're in blue or leading up to the shed after blue, should you handle or feed them?
Handling for me isn't a huge deal, but I generally will let them be. I try not to disturb them too much when they're in a shed, but things happen. Like I've held them in the blue a million times and they're fine.
Yeah.
But do they want to? Yeah, when they're in that state, they're usually in hiding. Even in the wild, you flip a rock and or a board, and they're in the blue. Yep. But you don't see them out crawling in the blue too. That's pretty rare.
No, I've heard biologists compare a snake in shed to when we have a cold or the flu. That they probably don't feel great. And being that they're cold-blooded animals, shedding is energy intensive. So you mentioned hiding. I mean, typically they're in the warm hide and they'll disappear in there for days. And so they're trying to keep their energy level up so that they can complete the shed and get that warmth. I don't think they want to be bothered when they're in shed. So. I certainly don't go out of my way to handle them. Plus, they can't see well when they're in blue. It's probably a little scary for them when they can't see very well. So I definitely don't go out of my way to handle them. If I have somebody over who's set on seeing a particular snake, I'm not going to let that stop me. If there's a poop, a bad one that needs to be, usually they wait till after shed, but if they poop before, I'm certainly going to clean that up, and I'm going to take them out of their enclosure to do that. So if I need to. So if I need to handle them, I will, but I certainly prefer to let them be. Yeah. Now, what about eating? I've heard crazy things about feeding, that if you feed a snake, even if there's a slight bulge, you're somehow gonna separate the skin too early and it could really hurt your snake or even be fatal. I don't know about you, but that's just hooey.
I mean, generally no. But in saying so, I have lost the snake. It had a big mill in it. It was in shed, and it tried to shed that off and couldn't get over that lump.
Oh, couldn't get around the.
Yeah,
but that was a big lump.
Yeah, it was a neo, and so.
And I think that's fair. I mean, ordinarily we wouldn't be overfeeding snakes in captivity anyway in terms of size, but sometimes with neos, sometimes if it's just you've got one mouse left and it's a little bigger than you'd normally feed, sometimes we go for it, see if they can take it. So it might be fair to say, hey, you don't want to give your snake a meal that's twice as big as it should be eating when it's in shed. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Do you intentionally try not to thaw food for a snake you know is in blue?
Yeah, and it's not like I come in here and check on 500 snakes.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you have extra food, and sometimes a snake needs to eat, like you need it to get some size on it or whatever the case may be. I've fed snakes in the blue a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of them, most of them won't eat. But some of them will still just go to town.
Oh, yeah.
And I generally don't practice that, but it happens.
Yeah, I'm the same way. If I tend to pay attention as feeding day's coming. Now, for me, it's easy, with my smaller collection. But if I notice I haven't seen a snake in a few days, and the majority of my snakes tend to cruise in the couple days leading up to feeding day, and if I happen to notice there's one, gee, where's he been? I haven't noticed him in a few days. Then I will check going into feeding day, and if it's in blue, I don't feed a meal. I don't thaw a meal. Now, should I not notice? I've already got something thawed. I absolutely offer.
I'm not going to waste it. Yeah.
I'm not going to waste it. And in my experience, most of them take when they're in blue. Not always.
Yeah.
but most times they will. So, yes, I try to avoid handling when they're in blue. I try to avoid feeding when they're in blue, but I think it's really, really rare that you're actually going to hurt or even kill a snake if you do those things. I don't think that is a
I don't think it's a big risk. Yeah, a big concern.
Not a big risk at all.
So,
let us know in the comments what you think. Are we full of it? Do you always feed when they're in shed? Do you try not to feed when they're in shed? And what about handling? Thanks.
Thank you.